What's up, everybody? It's your favorite Dark Lord, the Sis favorite nerd. Today we are looking at Play Arts Kai's variant, Darth Vader. A lot of people have been asking me to review this, and I've been telling them I wasn't going to because I wasn't going to pick him up. But luckily, one of my viewers, a guy named Brandon, asked me if I was going to get him. I said no. He said he was getting him. He was a local guy, swung by, dropped him off so that I could take a look at him. So that's pretty cool. So I want to definitely shout him out, and I want to talk about this figure. So he comes with a fair amount of accessories. This like posing hand, it's like a force hand, and we got a glossy bit on the glove there, and then the fingers are like a matte. Quite nice, looks good, dry brushed, all details sculpted and molded as usual that you've come to expect with this company, which I love. Same with the other hands, so that you can do either or, which I like. And I've talked about in previous reviews how I feel like they should come with 2 fists and 2 this and 2 that, so that you can do it how you like, and I'm glad to see that some of that stuff is starting to happen with these more recent ones. So, 2 gripping hands. I'm imagining that they are for this lightsaber here, which is quite nice. As you can see, painted, sculpted. The black is painted on there, and the blade is painted like a dark red to a white up here, and then it gets starts to go back into that pink. One thing that I would have liked is I would have liked this to be at the tip, so it would have been a gradient from dark to light to the very tip instead of back. I'm not exactly sure I understand the choice there, but it is there. I'm going to be very careful with this because this isn't mine, and I'd rather not pay for it if I don't have to. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and forego. But the hand is tight, the fingers are pliable, so it should go in there with no problem, and once it's in there, it should be good to go. Same with the other hand. The gripping hands are slightly different, but all of the detail and stuff is identical to the other 2. One is just more open. Let's see if I can't get that one in. Yeah, that's a much better fit. So you might want to go with that one. That's no problem. Holds it like a champ. Alright. And then one force choking hand, which is perfect. I would probably definitely use this one if it were mine. And then this accessory, which has kind of been turning everybody on. And this I like much better gradient-wise. It does get a little sharp there with the white, you know what I mean? Like this is a translucent plastic over top of this whiter plastic here, and you can see the white underneath there. I would have liked if either this continued all the way down, or if the translucent plastic got a little less translucent towards the bottom. But still pretty cool. I love how the blade has been like he's really swinging it. Like I think on a shelf pose, you can really make this quite believable. This is all textured in here. Quite nice, making me want it. And then this one is like a has anybody ever seen Flight of Dragons? It reminds me of one of the wizards in Flight of Dragons did this kind of bit. It was like an 80s cartoon, but it's like a little force power thing, or maybe he's stopping a blaster bolt. I don't know, but it is well done. Translucent plastic. This is a reimagining of this character to their sensibilities, so there's going to be some things that aren't canon, like Star Wars is kind of doing right now anyway, with saying what is and isn't canon, but that's a separate conversation. And then another gripping hand, which is of the tighter variety, so those options are there for you. Okay, so we're going to take a look at this figure. This is my first time messing with it, so this is my first time talking about it as I talk about it, because I don't want to hold this guy up too much. So the helmet is very nice, and it has this airbrushed highlight running alongside that side and this side, so depending on, you know, any way you pose them, you're going to get that detail, which is nice. The face sculpt is very, very, very stylized, and that's one of the things that turns me off personally to this. But you knew what you were getting into prior to this, so if you dig that face sculpt, it is exactly as it was shown, and it is done well. It's just not my particular taste. Same with the eyes. Like if you watch I'm a huge Star Wars fan. If you watch Star Wars, in A New Hope, his eyes had this like brownish tint to them, and then from Empire on, they got like much more black. And they went with like the New Hope, which is not my favorite. Empire is definitely my favorite, but it's not my favorite look for Vader, but it is there, and it is done well. You knew what you were getting into when you bought it, or if you were thinking about buying it. The pictures are pretty obvious how it looks, and it looks just like the pictures. It's well done. It's just not my taste. The head is on a double ball peg, it seems, from the head to the top of the neck, giving you up and down here. And then the neck into the torso is also on a double ball peg, getting you all the way down there, back there, side. There's really no limitations. Even with the helmet being the shape that it is, it really doesn't limit you a whole lot. He can't go super far up, but he can go a bit far up. So that's like looking straight normal, and then he can go that far up, which seems appropriate for the character, which is something else you have to take into account rather. So moving down the figure, chest, we got this silver in here, painted, sculpted, looking nice. It's a glossy paint on this black here to the chest piece, which is all painted silvers, reds, and blues, all extremely clean. And then it's like a satiny finish on this the cloak, which is highlighted from black to a purple, which I also dig. And then the glossy paint down here at the bottom is also highlighted with the same tint of like purplish gray that's also in the helmet, and it's a really cool choice, and it looks fantastic. The upper chest is on a ball peg, getting you not an extreme amount of motion, but enough. It's Vader. You're not going to have him in a super dynamic pose, more than likely, and this should get you everything you want for his more stoic looking pose. And then the bottom of the torso plugs into the pelvis at a double ball joint, also with an extreme range of motion, giving you anything you could possibly want. And then the swivel is built in there as well. This piece is a floating piece of soft plastic, highlighted with that grayish purplish, which I think was a brilliant choice. I wouldn't have necessarily thought that initially, but I do like it an awful lot. And then this metal here has that purplish, grayish airbrushing highlight, and then we got greens and reds painted there, silver painted there, all up to typical play art standards. The pelvis is also a floating piece. It's small here, if you look in there, so it will get jammed up in the upper torso and the hips, depending on how you pose it. But once you've got him posed and he's good to go, it shouldn't pose an issue. It's just one of those things. The back of the figure is fairly clean. This silver here down to the black is all painted, sculpted, and not dry brushed, but rather airbrushed from this silver to this black, and it's really nicely done. Another thing that this piece does is it hides the play art's cape, which can be fairly unsightly. A lot of times, like their Batman and Superman, they have like a half cape hanging over, which looks ridiculous. And this has this metal piece that covers it up that looks much better. It's much more thought out, and it gives for a much more finished figure. The cape itself doesn't have that play art split in the middle, so you can pose it, and thanks to this undercloak here, it would have been nice if they overlapped a little bit more of this piece here, but you can get away with a lot more of a widened look of the cape, which I'm sure underneath this soft plastic is on ratcheting ball hinges, typical play arts that ratchet up, and then they swivel at the connection from the ball hinge into the cape, so that's going to pose no problem and look fairly nice. That's my dog. Go upstairs, please. And then the shoulders are on ball hinges. It has this soft piece of plastic over it with this armor coating, which is nice because it hides the joint. The joint itself is this new kind of inset ball hinge that Play Arts is doing, which is not my favorite because you kind of lose the butterfly joint of it. But it does look fairly nice as long as you've got the right stuff covering it, which this guy does. Same painting, same highlights on this piece as have been with the others. This padding here, which has a bicep swivel, dry brushed from black to gray, looks nice. Typical Play Arts ratcheting ball hinge for the elbow, getting you to there. All this painted, sculpted, no dry brushing on the forearms, but it wouldn't really be necessary or accurate. And then the wrist is on a ball hinge, typical Play Arts ball hinge, so it gets you everything you want there. No problem. Exactly the same on the other side. All good to go. Really quite nice. So, hips. I'm guessing ratcheting universals, but I haven't looked at them. And yes, they are ratcheting universals as usual. Not an extreme range of motion. but not bad either. Good settings. No issues there. The dry brushing on the padding here, and the padding is this like matte finish. Glossy black here, glossy black with the highlights on the boots. Good to go there. The knees, double jointed. Not Play Art's best knee. They throw the baby out with the bathwater when it comes to knees, but fair amount of gaps here and there, but you probably wouldn't have him. Well, maybe you would, because that does look pretty sweet, but more than likely you wouldn't have him in a Superman-esque pose. They are double jointed and they are ratcheted, which is nice. As far as the foot, typical Play Arts ball hinge, which because of this soft plastic here allows you to get a pretty extreme toe tilt both ways, and then the rocker is built into the hinge. You just have to swivel the foot around the hinge in order to get the rocker that you need, which is fantastic as usual. Dry brush boots that look fantastic with the details and the sculpting and all those sorts of things. So all in all, pretty good figure. I'm not going to do any size comparisons with this figure because I don't have any other Star Wars figures to really compare to, except for this guy and this guy, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense to show you, except that I just did. So I am definitely in for the Fett of this line, possibly the Maul. I'm a huge Maul fan, even though he kind of sucks in general. I've come to accept it, but I'm still a huge fan of just his aesthetic and the way he looks. So I'll probably pick up the Maul too, but I don't have anything to really show in regards to this guy. He is more so in line with the newer lines of Play Arts where they're like 10-inch scale. Looks like it anyway. It looks like the DC variant line as far as size-wise is concerned. As far as negatives for this figure, the amount of floating pieces that are in this crotch can pose a problem. There is some limits in articulation due to the amount of floating pieces and then the universal joints at the hips. So he may not be able to get that dynamic. The knees aren't the best looking. And that's really it for just nuts and bolts of the problems. My biggest problem with him is that I'm not crazy about the design of him. But that's not, you know, their problem. That's my problem. If you like the design of this figure, you're going to love this figure. It's fairly well done in almost every regard. What's really cool to me is that somebody hit me up and asked to come over and check this thing out. And that's like, I love that kind of stuff, especially like living in this area. I don't feel like I ever meet anybody, and the people that I do meet are in line at Toys R Us at 10 o'clock in the morning and are usually generally unsightly, and I don't want them around my family. So it's nice to meet people that are like-minded, and the fact that this dude was able to bring it by and let me take a look at it, I'm extremely appreciative of that. And we're hitting it off. All right, don't go anywhere. I got a great idea. Give me like 30 seconds.
Oh, man. How can I get out of here? Somebody please help me. I came over just to share a toy, and now he won't let me leave. I think he's just a lonely old man.
All right. Hey, who are you talking to?
My girlfriend. On the phone.
All right, because I thought... S'mores? As for the pros for this figure, there's a ton. The paint is there, the sculpt is there, the articulation is pretty much there. There's a lot of smart choices made in regards to where to put soft plastic so that the articulation still comes through. There's a lot of smart choices made with this cape. I didn't mention this, but I do think that the cape is a little bit Adam West Batman for me, but that's just my personal taste. Individual results will vary, but I do think there's a lot of smart choices in regard to how they did the cape, how they did the cloak in front of the cape in order to hide the seam in the cape. There's a lot of thought that went into this. There's a lot of pride that went into this, and it's a well-done figure. If you like the way this thing looks, it performs just as well, if not better. My biggest issue, once again, is just the aesthetic choice. But I'll tell you one last long look out. What I love about this figure that a lot of Play Arts figures try to do but don't always do them well is the difference in finishes. Like there's like this satiny finish, there's a glossy finish, there's a matte finish, and like there's just it just gives it so much texture. Like this thing is just textured from head to toe, and that's a really nice touch, and it really seems cohesive, and it doesn't always feel that way on a lot of their like bigger efforts. But just little things like the color choices. It's an all-black figure, but where they chose to put the silvers, where they chose to put the little red and blue accents, where they chose to put the silver details, it all feels very cohesive. It feels very tied in. It feels very thought out. So if you are into the aesthetic of this line, I definitely recommend that you do not pass on this figure. And from what I hear, he's getting difficult to find. So keep your eyes open. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Until next time, take care.